All right. Hi, everybody. Really looking forward to tonight's episode. We're going to talk about how we can steal some ideas from kids. So, first step is to steal their nature journals and bring them home and carefully study what they're up to, which is what I have been doing for the last hour. And actually, for almost the last decade, I have been stealing ideas from kids. So, I think that learning is a two-way street. And if you're not learning, every time you have an interaction with a kid, then you're wasting a valuable resource with because kids are the consummate learners, and if you want to learn how to learn, they are the masters. So let's dive in with a couple. I'm going to show you my messy notes here, but I spent the last hour trying to summarize this into six tips, six ideas, and then there's a seventh bonus idea. So just want to say hi to everybody here. I see Mindy's here, Evea and James. Hi, everybody. We're going to dive in. So feel free to doodle during this. We're also going to do a couple of exercises, but some of it will be listing. And doodling goes really well with tip number one, which is basically tip number one is draw all the time. And one thing you'll notice, and it's in stark contrast to adults, is that kids draw. Almost every single kid at some point draws, and they usually draw quite a bit. So, one way to nature journal more like a kid and improve your art in general is to draw all the time. And um, some of the reasons why we stopped doing this, I think we're going to run into here in a second. And some of these might feel familiar to you, but basically, kids are drawing all of the time. And if you try to do that also, your nature journaling is going to get a lot better. You might already be thinking of some of the reasons why you don't draw all of the time. And that's one of the unfortunate things about becoming more rational as an adult is you can explain all of these reasons for not doing things that kids do. So number one is draw all the time, and whether that's just doodling in the margins, making repetitive patterns, drawing your house and your family, all of these things, drawing superheroes. If you think about it, kids are just drawing all of the time, and we're going to get into some more details about that in a second. But number one is just draw all the time. Number two for how to nature journal more like a kid is um, follow the fun. So some of these tips are going to be double-edged swords, and this is one of those. Draw all the time basically has no downsides. Follow the fun can be a little bit more complicated, especially if you aren't also practicing self-awareness. I'm going to draw a person running. Okay, so follow the fun is a double-edged sword for adults um, because we can rationalize doing things even if we don't really know what the underlying reason is. So, like for kids, for example, I'll show an example right here. Um, for me, as a kid, this gecko skeleton right here would have been super fun, and I would have definitely nature journaled this or tried to draw this if I was more like a kid today. However, I've had it sitting on my desk now for over a week, and I haven't even drawn it one time. So there's no excuse for that because I have drawing paper and drawing tools within inches of this really cool skeleton. I have all the observation tools I need on the front of my face, and I have drawing tools and learning tools with my hands. So the fact that I haven't done this yet is an example that as an adult, a lot of things get in the way of following the fun. So right now, actually, I'm just going to do a really quick sketch of this, and you can too. I'll hold it up a little bit closer to here, and pretty soon we'll start touching on some of the reasons why adults might not draw something like this in their nature journal or ask questions about it in their nature journal. And many of you, probably the majority of people that watch this video, won't draw at all during the video, which is interesting. And I don't want to be like judging anybody, but those are the kinds of things that adults do that make us worse at nature journaling and worse at learning than kids. We're lazy in some ways, and we can rationalize it in different ways, like, oh, I already nature journal today, or oh, I don't have the right kind of pin yet, or oh, my drawing's not going to look that good, or oh, I'm just watching this video to relax. Those are all legit rationalizations, and we're way better at doing that than kids are. So, like, I've had this really cool gecko skeleton sitting here, and I haven't drawn it once. I see Shirley is here, and she says hi to Evea. She's watching on Facebook, so maybe Evea didn't see that yet. Oh, Shirley's on Facebook and on YouTube. Never mind. Hi, Shirley. Hi, Nature Sketches. Hi, Jean. And there was someone else. Evea, there isn't, I don't have a perfect one yet. I don't have a perfect one yet. So, but good question. All right. So you can see that, just in a few seconds, I was able to get at least a basic sketch of this. Oh, Eli's here too. So it is possible to follow the fun and not just put things off, but actually follow what you're really interested in. So I mentioned that this one is a double-edged sword. I'm going to draw a sword over here. And that's because as adults, if we use the mantra follow the fun, it's really easy to not push ourselves outside of the comfort zone. And this is one of those places that I think there's a really tricky balance. And this is where self-awareness is probably the only answer. You have to question yourself a lot. So like if you say, well, for me, fun equals drawing plants from photos in my nature journal. And maybe drawing moving birds doesn't sound fun to you. And so you never try drawing moving birds. It might be that you are rationalizing doing something that feels more comfortable. So when you're following the fun, be sure that you're not just rationalizing doing something comfortable. Let me see if I could draw someone on a couch. That would be a good symbol for, what would be a good symbol for comfort? Instead, I'll just write the word comfort and cross it out. So following the fun does not mean following the comfort. It's not the same thing. I think this is tricky. It's a double-edged sword. So just be self-aware. Following the fun, you might also say like, oh, well, following the fun for me right now means just like not taking out my nature journal at all. And that might actually be true, but you have to be careful of the easiest person to sort of lie to is yourself, and this can be a tricky one. So the other thing that I want to point out here in Follow the Fun, which is number 2, is that you can't really buy it. And I think this is one of the differences with kids up until a certain point usually, is that they don't do the thing that we do where buying the supplies for the activity substitutes the activity itself. So a lot of people in nature journaling and in other forms of art, instead of doing the nature journaling, they go out and they buy the supplies for nature journaling, and they get the dopamine, they get the fun from shopping instead of from doing nature journaling or going on nature journaling adventures and stuff like that. So you can't just buy this. So next, let's move on from that. That is number 2, follow the fun. You can't buy it, and practice self-awareness because it is a double-edged sword. So let's do number 3. Number 3 for how to nature journal like a kid is going to be eat lots of sugar. So this is a really important one, and some adults are good at this, but it's definitely something that that kids do a lot, and it makes them better at nature journaling. So I'm only being half serious here, but basically when you nature journal, you are burning calories. Your brain burns more calories by weight than any other tissue in your body except for your heart. So you need to replace those calories by eating lots of chocolate, drinking red wine, or anything like that. That's more of like the adult version of popsicles. So bring snacks with you when you nature journal, or think about how you can exemplify this aspect of childlike behavior in a more directed way, and maybe help use it as like a way of training yourself. Number 4. I should have come up with a better drawing for this one. There, it's a popsicle. Oh, maybe I'll make it dripping. A dripping popsicle. Oh man, there's some good conversation going on in the chat, but I can't pay too much attention to it right now because I'm having trouble even just adding drawings to my notes here without getting lost. All right, so number 4. I don't know why I put it right there, but there it is. Number 4 is play/process. So another thing that is very different about how kids approach versus how adults do is that kids are focused on the immediate. They are less worried about the results of things that they do, and this obviously can be frustrating for their parents and adult guardians. But there's something really interesting here that applies to nature journaling, drawing, and learning. So if you think about playing, playing has no point. That actually is the point of play, or like the definition of play is that it is an activity, often like one that uses a lot of energy, or is challenging and maybe even uncomfortable. Interestingly, for periods of it, it doesn't have like a result at the end of that that game, right? So there's not something that you're trying to, usually there's not something at the end. I mean, certain things, maybe like building something with Legos or whatever, but it's the focus for kids is on the actual process part. And I think this is I think this is a really big one, because a lot of times adults, they're thinking about like, let me see if I can draw like a prize or something. They're thinking about, when I finish this drawing, I'm going to have this thing. And kids start to learn this too, but I think it's usually not the main way that they get motivated. I'm going to have this amazing sparkling thing that my mom is going to put on the refrigerator. And actually, your mom putting it on the refrigerator might be one of the ways in which you learn to go from valuing the process and the play to valuing the result and how people think about it. So for our nature journaling, if we want to nature journal better and nature journal more like kids, we can focus more on the process and the play versus some type of result. And outcome dependence is probably the root cause of most of the artistic syndromes that people develop, such as procrastination, perfectionism, fear of criticism, self-criticism, and all of those terrible, terrible maladies. Okay, so that's number 4 is play/process. Number 5. Number 5 is symbols are powerful. And this, again, is one of the double-edged swords. So draw all the time and play/process. As far as I can tell, they have almost no downside. Eating lots of sugar has a downside too. So that one is I'll put a sword next to that one, because obviously that has its downside. So you have to be self-aware with that one. Play/process can have some downsides, but the downsides on all of these are mitigated by self-awareness. So this one is symbols are powerful. So as you saw before, I did a drawing at the top of the page that looked like this. And a lot of times kids will draw in these types of ways, or maybe, let me find another example here. Maybe, for example, a hand could look like this. And so I'm going to imitate that. And actually, maybe that one's not even that symbolic. But the idea is that, and this is actually one of the main things that if you're teaching observational drawing that you struggle with, because people are using drawing symbolically and they use colors symbolically. And this is why I often do not do color, teach color when I'm teaching nature journaling, because people use it symbolically and they see a plant and they automatically get the green crayon, and adults do this too, and they just make the whole plant green. And just because it's a plant doesn't mean it's all green. And it's definitely not the Crayola green that people think they are. So symbols are powerful. And I already started to mention some of the negative aspects of that, but they are also very useful. So one of the things that we can steal from kids is the use of symbols in our drawing. And once you've been taught observational drawing, what can happen is you can lose the ability to make symbols again, and things such as maps can become much harder for you, and you might forget how to use more symbols in your nature journal pages. So symbols are a double-edged sword, but they're very, very powerful. Kids use them all the time, if not like exclusively in their drawing, especially at first. But it's something that we can find a balance between them and between someone who only does observational drawing and has forgotten how to use symbols. All right, and then the final one is, before the bonus one, is number 6, and it is don't take yourself too seriously. And I need to start a whole new page for this because most adults take themselves way too seriously, even if they don't realize it. So number 6, don't take yourself too seriously. And this is a cultural one, so it's going to be different in different cultures. But first one is going to be getting dirty. So this can mean a lot of things, but a lot of times adults won't follow their curiosity or follow their fun because they're worried about getting dirty. So like, for example, if you gave something like this to a kid, depending on what age they are, and left them with this for a while, at some point they're going to either smash this, they're going to break it open, or something like that. An adult might be like, "Oh, don't touch that; you might mess it up," And so an adult might not even touch it. They might not bring it close to their nature journal. They might be afraid of getting the juices inside on their hand or anything like that. Those kind of things are not going to stop a kid from destroying this. And usually the destroying that we interpret is actually experimenting and learning. And yes, there can be limits and a downside to that, but this is something that you might be limiting yourself on, and it's actually could be beneficial to your learning. It could also be where you go. Do you walk off the trail a little bit? Do you go into the mud? Do you like touch things? Those are all ways. If you notice somewhere inside of you, part of you wants to do that, maybe try doing that every once in a while. Next one would be staying loose. So a lot of times, kids' drawings, like let's look at this map here really quickly. Kids' drawings will often be much more loose, and that might be because they're still developing their motor control. But control is not always the main thing that makes art better. And actually, a lot of artists have to figure out ways to lose control a little bit, which is kind of weird to think about. And you can get all metaphorical with that if you want to, but staying loose is going to help you a lot, and there's going to be things that come out of that are unexpected. And so what we're going to do right now is one of the ways that adults can stay loose. And no, it's not the red wine, it's the blind contour drawing. So we're going to do a little bit of blind contour drawing. I'm going to hold this. here, um, go ahead and do it with me. And so if you remember, blind contour drawing is a way that you look at something, and instead of looking at your drawing, you just try drawing the object without lifting your pen up from the paper and just drawing what you see. You get things like that. It's a great way to loosen up. They're usually quick. And if you do this for a while, what you'll notice is certain artists, such as Picasso, use aspects of this all the time, or used aspects of this all the time. This ginger would be another great one to do. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to look at this. I'm going to kind of go crazy here, stay loose. And I've created a system to sacrifice control. So basically what you're doing is forcing yourself to kind of draw in a way that someone with less motor control might be drawing that way all the time. So it's interesting that there's certain techniques like this that have come about for adults to intentionally lose a little bit of control. And what you get when you loosen up sometimes is a type of liberty with your lines. There's a lot of things you can learn from this technique, but for right now, the main one I want to point out is looseness. Scribble more and filter less. So a lot of times people who are adults won't even put anything on paper because they're worried about, they basically start editing themselves before they even put something on paper. And this is true for speech as well. And this is why kids say things that no adult would say. And sometimes it's really deep, sometimes it's really philosophical, sometimes it's offensive. They'll just say things that other people have learned, that adults have learned is like an impolite thing to say. And they will also, they'll say a lot of things that adults would not say. So sometimes in your nature journal, you might be filtering what you say, what you write down without even realizing it. You might be filtering your questions. You might be filtering what you try to draw. So by just scribbling more, just getting it down on paper and worrying about it, editing yourself less is going to be really helpful. I think I have a page here where this insect pooped while I was nature journaling it with some kids. And that was a highlight, obviously. So I made a little cartoon saying "Iso caca" because the bug pooped. The poop didn't look that cool, so I didn't draw the poop, if I remember correctly. But I probably shouldn't have filtered myself in that way. But a lot of times, an adult that's drawing a bird, like the regular nature journal adult is drawing a bird in watercolor, and the bird poops, and they're not going to draw the poop. And why aren't they going to draw the poop? Are they legitimately not interested in the poop? Is the poop like not really important? Or is it because they're somehow filtering what they think is relevant or what they think is appropriate, or they're too worried about, they're taking themselves too seriously, basically. Next one is who cares what you look like? And this is still part of don't take yourself too seriously. So for example, like maybe you have like a weird, crazy hat that actually like shades your nature journal while you're working on it, and makes it like way easier to nature journal. But it looks weird, or someone made a comment about it one time. So if you're an adult, you're probably going to go without that hat, and you might also not nature journal in certain places because you're afraid of what people are going to say, and stuff like that. You're worried about how you look. So up until a certain age, kids are blissfully oblivious of that for the most part. And so that is something we can definitely improve on as adults. And one way that we can do it is, for example, I used to be sometimes afraid to do stuff like this on my nature journal pages. And I'm sure some of the people tonight don't want to do blind contour drawings or things like that on their nature journal pages because they have maybe a few precious pages. Like if you have a precious page like this, and then on the next page, you have a bunch of squiggles, or you have a page like this, that can be hard to go from a page like this to a page where you're doing squiggles of bugs pooping. So that is taking yourself too seriously and worrying too much about how you look. So who cares how you look is something within don't take yourself too seriously that we can learn from kids. Who cares how you look? And besides, the other adults are probably so worried um, about how they look that they're not actually really paying that much attention to how you look. And then the last one for don't take yourself too seriously, and let me see if I can figure out a symbol for this, is you still have a lot to learn. And this is probably one of the biggest problems with adult learning is when you're a kid, you have this big empty place inside of your head and you know it. And this is part of the reason why kids ask more questions than adults is because they're trying to understand the world and they know they have a lot to learn. I have a lot to learn. Adults, and this starts happening. This is a spectrum, right? There's a spectrum between kids and adults. When you turn 21 or turn 18 or whatever, that doesn't mean you suddenly became an adult. I have a lot to learn. So this is a spectrum, but if you think you know things, then suddenly there's no more space in here. And what that means is you're not going to ask questions. Yeah, you're going to listen to other people less, and you're just going to approach the world in a way where you're trying to confirm what is already inside of there. Instead of looking for new information to put into here, you're looking for things, you're looking for patterns that match what you have in there already. So, not taking yourself too seriously in terms of what you think you already know is super critical, and that could be like a whole episode just on its own. Now, final one, and this is going to be the bonus one. The seventh way to imitate kids to nature journal better. Drum roll, please. I should get like one of those fancy sound things so I could like put sounds into here. So number 7 is don't believe adults. And this is similar to this segues from the last one. Don't believe adults. Or this could also be like experts. So kids, it seems like to me, slash experts, kids naturally start off with a lot of um, skepticism about authority. And depending on what culture you live in, this could be different, but some variations. But I think I don't like to make claims about human nature, but I think that there is a certain amount of underlying uh, disbelief or distrust of authority and questioning. And so you might already be asking a question, hopefully you are, in response to me putting this. And this is actually, I'm going to leave you with this thought and not go into it too much more. But if you told this to a kid, there is something that they would immediately say. Like if a kid is watching this right now, they probably already said this. As soon as a kid hears me say, don't believe adults, what is going to come out of their mouth? What is the thing that's going to come out of their mouth? And the thing that comes out of their mouth is going to epitomize this number 7. And number 7 is a super important one. And there's one thing that is most likely to come out of their mouth, and it's going to be this: why? And I'm going to leave you with that. That is the last, and I think a good summary of the sort of mindset that I think can really help you not take yourself too seriously, draw more, follow the fun, eat lots of sugar, play. Symbols are powerful. Some of these, remember, are double-edged swords. So don't just use your adult brain to switch this to your advantage and be like, okay, so that means following the fun is just eating the sugar and not actually nature journaling. Remember that fun and comfort are not the same thing. You can't buy any of these things, drawing all the time, all of these. And of course, this last one is super important. Sit with that a little bit, go eat some ice cream, and enjoy. Thanks to Adam, Mindy, Ivea. Looks like there's a lot of great comments here. Sandra was here. James is here. All right, everybody, have a great evening. And yeah, let's think about these ways that we can think more like kids and emulate some of their learning techniques. Bye.